Brothers and sisters, welcome to the final regular season episode of the Southland Sermon with your boy, the Rev. Got a very, very special guest in. He is not only one of the head honchos for FCS Fans Nation, he is a stats voter, overall badass, and a mediocre hockey player. Jamie Williams, thanks for joining me tonight, man. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Well, mediocre is a compliment there from me, buddy, but I appreciate it. I think I joined the first episode this year. I figured I'd just bookend you.
There you go. That's led with our best foot, and but we may have some other special folks coming in tonight, so we shall see. But yeah, this, like I said, this is probably, this is the last regular season episode because it is the last week of the season. Not sure if we're going to have sermons in the playoffs or we're going to go back to the traditional Mega Live. I'm thinking Mega Live because the playoffs are just their own sort of nutty thing, but then there'll also be, a recap at the end of the year as well. So let's go through the scores from last week, talk about the games. Jamie, I don't know how much you're able to watch. There were some good ones though last week. Not the McNeese Northwestern State game. That was not a good one, but we'll get that one out of the way.
Yeah.
McNeese just keep obliterating. Obliterate Northwestern State. Jay Sean Barbie had an incredible game, 139 yards. Final was 35-3. Poor Northwestern State. I absolutely feel terrible for them because it's just, it's just back-to-back years of just horribleness for them.
Turmoil.
Yeah, turmoil is a good way to put it. Yeah, there's not much to talk about there. Mercifully, Northwestern State season will come to an end this week. Let's see. East Texas A&M, the now undefeated 2-0 under their new name. Their old record doesn't count now.
Imagine if they switched earlier.
I know, right? Like, I wonder Clinton Dozell's going back to them going, hey, guys, why can't we have done this in August? But East Texas A&M, they defeat Houston Christian 41-40 in quite the shootout. It was definitely an enjoyable one to go back and watch if you hadn't seen it live. My God, A&M's quarterback, he's 40 for 65 for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah, pretty clutch one there. About a half minute left in the game.
I don't know if he made it on VatStats or not. I didn't listen to Hack City, but he should have made it.
Pretty sure he did. Yeah, I think he made it on.
That's good.
As long as Sean realized they were actually FCS.
I'm not sure Sean realizes they're an actual team, if I'm being 100% honest, but that's what it is. Let's see. My alma mater, Stephen F. Austin, loses a close one to Incarnate Word, 27-20. That game was very interesting. A lot of back and forth early. SFA's defense, I will say this now, there may be folks who disagree with me, but SFA's defense is probably the best Incarnate Word has seen all year. And there's some stats to back that up too, but unfortunately, not having Vidlac, although Gavin Rutherford played a hell of a game. He made some mistakes, but he really didn't look like a freshman back there. But he did his best. But Incarnate Word wins 27-20. There you go. Absolutely, the guru of podcasting.
Which is way better than the nickname I gave you.
I was gonna say, let's see, I'm nicer. I support that one. But see, Zach Calzada didn't have necessarily a great day, but did enough to win. 15-32, 205 yards, 1 tutty, 3 picks though.
Your defense certainly gets after it. I think you said there's some stats to back it up. There's a school way up 35 that would want to argue with the statement you made, but we'll let them try to bring that up to you.
There's data that shows this. Like, it has gone even a certain sexy thumpy has agreed with that their school lags behind. DK to Colin Taylor went for 74 yards. Roy Alexander had himself a touchdown. Like, it's the one thing about Incarnate Word is that, if you double up Waltham, you got to deal with Roy Alexander. They do have a couple potent weapons at receiver. For SFA, Gavin Rutherford went for 209 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, a couple picks, had 50 yards rushing. He actually had 89 yards rushing, but then he lost 40 due to sacks. So, yeah. Yeah. And then Kylon Harris, 6 receptions, 79 yards, and a touchdown as well. Excellent. I mean, you got to say this. You got to say this too. You Incarnate Word did cover the spread. I actually thought the spread was going to be more. But like I said, SFA's defense is top notch. Now, unfortunately, unless major chaos happens, which we'll get to in a bit, SFA season's done. And then the last game of the week, the one that was, honestly, Lamar beats up on Nichols, 24-7. So again, Nichols, very one-sided offense. You only, if you only do one thing, as long as you can stop it, and you have a quarterback who's just not great, it's very hard to get your ball moving if you don't have a good enough defense. And Nichols that way. So Lamar gets to win 24-7. So it's a good week. I see the Taco King is here.
I don't want to know what hot frosty is.
I don't either, Brian. Like, there's some things.
Now that he's Canadian, that's some weird porn.
Yeah.
Cleanse yourself, brother.
Yeah, Brian. Like, I know we're going to learn about some of this stuff in Frisco, but I don't need to know what that is. Okay. Like, I'm sure it involves maple syrup and hockey pucks and.
Oh, dear Lord.
And probably poutine also.
Poutine. Back to Incarnate Word for a second. Think about how, to a certain degree, how good and much talent was on those Albany teams in the last couple of years. That's where Roy Alexander transferred from. Mm-hmm. Poffenbarger leaves, Alexander leaves, Vera Versh gets drafted. You see what Albany had and why they're struggling this year. But yeah, I mean, he's been good. He's been a good target for Calzada, so that was a good pickup for Kilo. That's the kind of guy that they're going to need going down the stretch here and into the playoffs. Looking at the Nichols game, Colin Guggenheim, 7 carries for 22. Just not going to get it done.
Nope. I mean, Lamar just shut him down. Lamar knew what to look for. Lamar's rush defense hasn't been that bad this year either. They've done pretty well. So they matched up well, and Nichols is honestly who I thought they were. Everybody was giving them hype at the beginning of the year. Oh, they're a top 25 team because they were undefeated. The Southland exceptionally sucked last year. And Nichols was not good outside of the Southland. And we saw that in the playoffs when they went to Southern Illinois and just got beat so bad they got left in the airport overnight. So, so I've never understood the hype for them. I still don't. And I think to the point, it's what it is. Jason, we'll get to this because I want to go through it as well. Wait, I didn't see what Frank said. Who do you guys like in the USD versus NDSU game on Saturday? Can USD pull off the upset? There's a difference between can and will.
Yeah, they certainly can.
They certainly can. They can. And you know what? I can weigh 185 pounds tomorrow if I really wanted to. But will they?
Ozempic works that well?
Ozempic's amazing. No, but will they? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I would take NDSU, but I think they're going to get a challenge from that defense. South Dakota's defense isn't getting enough play this year. Yeah,
Seth nailed it. Seth, I will say Seth has been probably one of the most accurate people in comments this week because Seth absolutely nailed it. Yes, they can. They absolutely can, but they won't. But let's talk about Southland and potential. So right now, Incarnate Word is in the playoffs. They have the AQ. There's not any sort of way they can lose the AQ. They're in the playoffs. So it begs the question, and we talked about this Sunday night. Well, you guys did. I sat in the background and handled comments, but is Incarnate Word really a top 8 seed?
Are they a top 8 seed? Like, it's kind of like the same thing we were talking about just a second ago. Can and will are 2 different things. Yeah, they probably are, but do they look like a top 8 seed? Resume wise, eye test, maybe. I'd like them more in the 10 range, but I understand how they're going to get probably the 7 or 8, unless all hell breaks loose around. Like if Montana wins, that pushes them back because Montana will get into the top 8. We'll see what goes on at the top of the CAA. Incarnate Word's a good team. I like Calzada. I like the weapons. Eventually you have to beat somebody that is ranked and is good.
Yeah. And
I think so, the same thing we said about them last year.
Well, it is, except last year they got left out because their strength of schedule was just god awful, especially out of conference. But here's the thing: I got into discussion with some of the Incarnate Word fans on Twitter, And I said that they're going to be, if they're a top 8 seed, they will be the first top 8 seed out potentially. I think that's the way it is. And it's not saying that they're a bad team. It's just they're not at the upper echelon of teams. Like I said, SFA was probably the other. I will say this over South Dakota State. And sorry to South Dakota State fans are watching. SFA statistically is a better defense than South Dakota State. And SFA's defense had a field day for most of that game. They just got gassed. If your offense isn't staying on the field, you can't do much. So then it makes me wonder what's going to happen when Incarnate Word meets up with another tough defense, right? If Calzada has another 3-pick day, you're gonna be going up against teams that actually have offense, with the exception of Mercer. So, what's going to happen with Calzada, with them in that offense at that point? And I was also told I should root for Incarnate Word, and I'm like, I'm not one of those guys. Sorry, I know this is a Southland podcast, but I will openly support, but I'm not going to root. And there's a difference between the two.
Yeah, for sure. Or you could just be Kyler, who hates everybody except for so that's cool too. I subscribe to that to a certain degree.
That's Kyler's shtick, though. I can't take his shtick, even though I'm a better hater than he is. But it's just I will support this. I will support Southland teams. I will say nice things about them, but rooting for them is a completely different thing. Because at the end of the day, Incarnate Word has kind of been a weird rival of SFA. Not to the point like other schools are, but we haven't necessarily liked each other. So if Incarnate Word loses, will I be sad about it? Probably not. Probably not. Let's see. This is a USD comment. I just saw it. USD defense hasn't got the respect deserved. That's probably because it's USD. They don't deserve respect. Jesus, Chad. Okay. Chad asked who has SFA played, and that's a fair question. SFA's out of conference schedule this year has been brutal because they lost the Montana State game because of the conference change, which meant that Montana State had to play Mercyhurst, and that actually hurt Montana State's strength of schedule as well. SFA did have FBS North Texas, almost beat them. They had Northern Colorado, and then they had North American, which doesn't count. And I would hope they take those numbers out of the statistics. But then they've got, Incarnate Word, they lost to I-7. Southeast Louisiana, they lost because they played prevent. And McNeese, they lost to because they didn't know what a field goal kicker was. And they got Abilene Christian this week. And I'll be interested to see what happens and we'll talk about that, what happens with Abilene Christian's potent offense against SFA's defense. And I think that will even be a better test than Incarnate Words on how good SFA's defense is.
Yeah, I agree. We can talk about that at length a little bit more when we get to that.
Yeah. Brian, there's an NDSU podcast somewhere.
Nobody listens to it.
Nobody listens to it. I'm sure McFeely has a lot of thoughts on NDSU. So let's go to the other parts. We talked about Incarnate Word. Let's talk about Southeastern Louisiana. This is a question I've seen pop up multiple times this week, namely from one fan. Shout out Danny Johnson. But Southeastern Louisiana, they've been listed as a bubble team, and I guess technically they are. If they win the River Bell Classic, they'd be 7-5 and that 73 against FCS with 2 FBS losses. But then it comes back and begs the question: let's say we run chalk, okay? Let's say the expected wins happen, and there's not help. Does Southeastern Louisiana have the resume and strength of schedule to get into the playoffs?
The funny thing is their strength of schedule is 31, but to me that's really propped up by playing Tulane because they're really good. It's hurt by playing Southern Miss, who's terrible. But again, same thing I said about Incarnate. Eventually you have to beat one of those teams. Their losses are good losses. The 2 FBS games, South Dakota State, Tarleton, and Incarnate Word. And they were right in the game against Tarleton, just like about half the teams that Tarleton played. But there's nothing that stands out about their resume, but just like about every other team that's going to be about 7 wins. But at least when you look at the SoCon teams such as Chattanooga and Western Carolina, they've at least beaten somebody, even if it's within their own conference, that's pretty good. And Southeast Louisiana just hasn't done that. So I'd have them towards the bottom of the bubble. I'd have them closer to NAU, but people are on NAU, and I don't get it. So I kind of just want Eastern to win that game just to shut the NAU stuff up, just because I just don't see it for them. I mean, I've used Southern Utah, but I don't think Southern Utah is going to make it. They've got a way better resume than Northern Arizona. I think one of those Southland teams, the SoCon teams, is probably going to get in over Southeast Louisiana, Southern Utah, Northern Arizona. But we'll see. I mean, we still got to play a whole week of football, and crazy things happen in the last week.
Yeah, and then to the point, one of the biggest things she said, Southeastern has quality losses. They don't have quality wins. Their best win is SFA.
What is SFA?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. So, so unfortunately, and here's the thing: I like Coach Selfo. He's actually one of my favorite coaches in the conference. I think he's done a good job with that program, but I just don't think they're going to get the love. I just see people saying that the Southland deserves respect. They're a better conference than the SoCon. They're not. That they're a better conference than the CAA. They're not. People are getting, they're just getting chapped about the CAA potentially having 4 or 5 teams. But here's the thing: the CAA put 16 teams in that damn conference, however many they have, and they made the schedule the right way. The teams that they want to be in the playoffs, they gave them the weakest damn conference schedules of all. And there's a reason why the top teams aren't playing each other each year. And until a conference like the SoCon, who maybe adds more, or the Southland, if they add more, if they do scheduling like that and make it favorable to multiple teams to have records, then you're going to see the Southland struggle to be a 2-bid conference.
Yeah, I mean, and it was there. I mean, like I said, if Southeast Louisiana wins one of those 3 games, if they finish out the Tarleton, I disagree with that, Jason.
I actually agree with him.
No, I completely. 92 strength of schedule.
Okay, but take out the 2 FBS. I mean, look, I guess you can't do that. But say if you took out the 2 FBS games and put in decent FCS teams, where would Southeastern's strength schedule be? Probably down in the 60s.
Probably in the 60s, but it's still not 92. And Southeastern didn't play a sub D1 team. It's just not there to me. Central, they have their binoculars on, looking at the playoff bubble.
Wow, it's true. It's fair. I kind of want to see it because I always like to see when HBCU gets in because it's just fun.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to see it. They deserve to be in last year. Florida A&M deserved to be in a few years ago, but what happens? They just get smoked. When Florida A&M got in there, they lost to Southeastern Louisiana by 30. Who then went and got hammered 60-20 by JMU the week after.
And you went to did you go to the Central? Was it Central and Richmond who were last year?
It was last year. I didn't go to the game. I should have. It was probably at JMU that week.
Right. We know you love Richmond and try to go to all their games.
I thought about going to the game this week. We'll see if I can pull it off.
The Richmond, the future Patriot League champion.
Yeah.
So Southeastern, I think to that point, they would need massive chaos. They would need SFA to beat Abilene Christian to help boost to give them a quality win. At that point, they would need just about every other
bubble team has to lose. Yep.
And if you bet on that, then you should definitely go bet 0-0 on a roulette table also tomorrow or this weekend, because the odds of that happening are basically slim to none. Yes, there is a chance they can do it. They could do it, but will it happen? No.
It's a lot that has to happen.
Yep. And then SFA, I've heard them mentioned as a bubble team by people, and my response is why? Because when they lost to East Texas A&M, that bubble burst.
Yeah, it exploded. Yeah,
exploded.
You win that game, and you go into this week with a real shot, to be honest. But yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah,
and the thing they can do, and here's the other thing too: Abilene Christian isn't going to take the week off because they won the conference. Abilene Christian wants a top 8 seed. Yeah, they're going to do everything they can. They're going to come in and bring in everything they have to get that top 8 seed. So this isn't one of those that they're like, oh, we made it, we can sit our starter. None of that. That's not happening at all.
No, it's definitely not
by any means. So I don't think they get that. I'm just looking at some of these comments. Oh Lord, we're gonna take that one back off. Glad you made it in though, bud. So let's go into the games for next week, because like I said, this is the absolute final week of the season. I'm going to save the Thursday night game for last, because that one's just going to be a fun one to talk about.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've got Incarnate Word traveling to the currently 2-0 East Texas A&M Lions. I mean, they're 3-8 overall, but 2-0 at East Texas A&M. East Texas A&M has kind of turned it on the past couple of games. They've looked a lot. I mean, they've looked better. Are they good enough to beat Incarnate Word though? I don't think so. But
no, I don't think so.
Funny? It would be absolutely funny if they did, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to me that happens. I just think that Incarnate Word's going to go in the role, because the same thing you just said about Abilene Christian. They're fighting for a top 8 seed, and they need to make a statement here, and they really need to hammer East Texas A&M. They really do, and just have a big game.
100% agree. I think this is one of the ones where it's like, I've called big scores. I think this is, or big spreads. I think this is one of them. I think this is like Incarnate Word that wins by like 3 or 4 scores.
At least. Yeah, I think so too.
Yep. Northwestern State travels to CVS Field to play Houston Christian. Houston Christian looking to get another 5-win season. Northwestern State looking for their first win. I've said this multiple times this year. Blaine McCorkle will get that program turned around at Northwestern State. He knows what to do. He did it at the D2 level.
He needs patience.
Yeah, that's the thing. That the fan base there, the school, the boosters, all that. They need patience, because he took a program that was an absolute shit show. Laird left that thing an absolute mess, especially with everything that happened and forfeiting a season, lost so many players on it too. Like, this is I want to see them win, even though they are a rival, just so they have a point of pride. They gotta win this year, but Houston Christian's not going to let it happen.
No, I don't think so either. Houston Christian has been sneaky decent this year. They're not being rolled over. They've kind of got to that level of where they were with Zappy a few years ago, where they were very competitive. They do have some talent there. I'd like to see if they can build upon that next year. They've done some good things.
Yep. And this is a tale as old as time, because you got the Christians versus the Demons. So will definitely be a fun one at CVS Field. Speaking of Christians, Abilene Christian travels to SFA. This one's at 2:00. Abilene Christian looking to get win number 9. SFA looking to finish 7-5 instead of 6-6. I mean, so a couple of things with SFA. One, if SFA loses, Colby Carthel, 500 season. He's technically had 500 season or winning seasons 4 out of the 5 or 4 out of the 6 he's coached. I don't know if that cools his seat a little bit, especially given the fact that the last few losses have been, without your starting quarterback. But I got to think that it's in the back of his mind too. And then, like I said, Abilene Christian is wanting a top 8 seed.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see Maverick McIver against SFA's defense. Kind of gave Zach Calzada all kinds of fits. I do think McIver's on a little bit different level this year. He's looked good in just about every game. I believe he leads FCS in passing yards.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing about Abilene. Don't sleep on their run game. They've got the running back, and of course, I'm not looking at it, so I can't think of the kid's name now. It's number 6, I think he's really good. So they have a much more balanced offense than you realize, so they can beat you in a lot of different ways. I've watched a lot of Abilene. I watched a real large chunk of that game against Tarleton, and the chips were down, and Maverick McIver went down the field and led them on the game-winning score. I like the mettle and the moxie of that kid. So I think Abilene Christian can scare somebody in the playoffs. I don't know how far they're going to go, but I do think they beat SFA here probably by somewhere in the 7-10 range.
Yeah, so give me some stats on McIver. This year he's 282 for 450, 3,623 yards, 28 touchdowns, 5 picks. Is he in the Peyton Award finalist voting?
He probably will be as part of the nominations. We'll get that list, I believe, on Tuesday. We'll get the list for everybody. Then we'll be voting through, I think, Friday evening or Saturday morning. I'll probably reveal my ballot on one of the Sunday night shows after that. But Yeah, I expect he's going to be up there. There's going to be quite a few quarterbacks. There'll be a few running backs. I'm sure there'll be a receiver or two in there. But McIver will definitely get some votes because, I mean, he's been consistently good all year. And let's face it, a lot of people will just look at numbers. And so what is it? Would you say is that 3,600 and change?
He is at 3,623.
36-23, so a huge game could get him to 4.
I was like, he could probably get if he plays it right, he'd get 4,000 yards.
I mean, just figure somewhere between 3,850 and 4,000 yards is where he's going to wind up for the regular season by the time we vote. So he'll get a lot of love on ballots, I think.
Probably 30 touchdowns also.
Yeah.
So because all he needs are 2. And then Hicks, the running back you're talking about.
Hicks.
He is 14 yards from 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And then Taylor, their stud receiver, he is 49 yards from 1,000 yards.
You know what? Blaine Taylor is a large human being and play receiver.
Yeah, he is.
He just a couple times last week, he just went up and got the ball and mossed them basically.
Yeah.
Good positioning by the Tarleton DBs. And by the way, Tarleton has a better defense than they get credit for as well. And he just said mine and took it down the field. Blaine Taylor is a problem for a lot of players.
6'5" guy. He is a big dude. And then on the SFA side, obviously, Vidlak was having a year until he got injured. I mean, he was probably having a Peyton Award nominee sort of year. Definitely. I mean, we know he's not going to win because we know it's going to go to Cam Miller or something like that. But he definitely was having a year until he got hurt. Kylon Harris, though, is 42 yards away from having a 1,000-yard season, which isn't bad. And he's a junior. So the nice thing is that SFA, other than losing Quaylon Jones, brings back a lot of folks next year, which is a promising thing for the program.
Yeah, just keep guys there. Hopefully that happens. Avoid the dreaded portal and build on something. And there's building blocks.
Yeah. And then, Abilene Christian probably 7-10 win. I put it in that spot. Yeah. And then we got Lamar, the town full of oil money, going to McNeese, the town where you lose your oil money at the casinos, and Lake Charles. This is a fun rivalry too because these two schools are an hour and a half apart and can't stand each other. Always fun to watch. Both at 6-5 records. What a turnaround for McNeese. I will say that now. What an absolute turnaround from where they were last year.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah,
and they played pretty good since Clifton McDowell went down. I mean, what's that kid's name? Six Killer, which is one of the coolest names. Yeah, has played well. He's done a good job there. To step in and to have that team at worst be 500 after what they did last year is impressive. That turnaround is probably second only to Stony Brook in the FCS.
He honestly, in my opinion, deserved one of the Regional Coach of the Year awards, not Nathan Brown. But
I agree.
I'm just saying. Just saying. But yeah, so this one's fun because I said that I thought Lamar would be a dark horse. I thought Lamar would finish up in the top 3 in the conference. They have the potential to do that this weekend with a win. And
Lamar is heading in the right direction under Rosamondo. I think he's done a really nice job. I believe I had him on my Robinson ballot last year at 3 or 4 just because of the job he did in his first year. He's made a little bit more progress this year, not as much as I think a lot of people thought they might. Myself included, I thought they'd be a little bit better, but 6-6, 7-5, I can't really be upset with that for either team.
No, I can't either. And then I'm going to bring this up because we are going to talk about the game of the week, and that's tomorrow night. It's the River Bell Classic between Southeastern Louisiana and the Swamp People of Nichols. They're playing this down in Thibodaux on Manning Field. This is always a fun game to watch, and my favorite thing about this is that you could have a team that's 10-1 versus a team that's 1-10 or 1-9, or 1-9. What 9-1 versus 1-9, right? And you can throw the damn record book out. You can throw everything out because this game never turns out like you think it's going to.
Yep.
And to Jason's point, how many off-the-field shenanigans in the River Bell Classic? I'm waiting to see what all happens. But so when you look at this game just as a whole, it's two very different teams. You've got Southeastern Louisiana of Eli Sawyer. He hasn't had, I would say, statistically the best year, but he's done enough to get Southeastern Louisiana to where they are. Antonio Martin Jr. though, holy shit!
He's carrying their offense because I'm not a huge fan of Sawyer's game. He's a decent player, but to me, I think they need some better play at the quarterback position. So let's put it that way. That's the way I'll put it. Martin has been really good. Where is he? I'm looking. He is 7th in FCS in rushing yards at 1164, just about 9 yards behind Larison.
And their second running back, whose name I am now blanking on. Oh gosh, this is gonna drive me nuts. He's been a stud too. They do have a nice running back room there, and then they got Darius Lewis at receiver. He's got 711 yards. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think if they had a stronger, QB game with him, you would see a different Southeastern team. But that's been fun. And on the other side, for Nichols, we don't need to talk about Pat McQuaid because McQuaid is just not a good quarterback. I guess he's thrown for almost 2,000 yards, but 13 touchdowns, 9 picks, where you have your weapons. You have Guggenheim and you have Jalen Spears. And
is Spears still hurt?
He's not healthy. So you really have Colin Guggenheim, who is a scary dude when you see him in person. Like, that dude looks like a damn linebacker.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's a big boy. I swear it feels like Colin Guggenheim's been in college since 2015, but he's definitely one of the better running backs that you don't hear about. So I think there's going to a lot of run game this week. But yeah, the River Bell Classic is genuinely one of the games I enjoy sitting down and watching. It's always on a Thursday night, and doesn't matter. Like you said, you throw the records out because the last few years it seems like whoever's favored loses. Nichols is running. Last year they did well, but when Nichols was a couple years ago, they're rolling, and Southeastern beats them when they're having a down year. Southeastern's having that big year with Cole Kelly, and Nichols gives them the game that they didn't expect. So it's going to be a good one. I'll be sitting down watching a lot of that game on Thursday night.
Yeah, the same. I actually told my wife, I'm like, I'm watching football tomorrow. I've got to watch this game because it is fun. Because I know everybody talks this week, it's Brawl of the Wild. Yes, Brawl of the Wild is one of the best rivalries in FCS. It's the game, Lehigh Lafayette. This is one of the best rivalries when you talk about schools that absolutely cannot stand each other and fan bases that cannot stand each other. And these schools, if you don't know the geography of Louisiana, they are not far apart from each other. They're both and not far from New Orleans. Southeastern's up on the other side of Lake Pontchartrain, and Thibodaux's 45 minutes from New Orleans. Like, these schools are close to each other, and they do not like each other. And it's not football. It's all sports. They get up for basketball. They get up for baseball. They get up for everything. And so with that, to me, when you look at this game, can Guggenheim move the ball against Southeastern's defense? And can McQuaid do enough in the air to support Guggenheim being the bell cow and being the Nichols offense? And then on the flip side, can Nichols' defense, who's been okay against the run, stop Antonio Martin Jr.?
Yeah, I think this game definitely comes down to which run defense does a better job of forcing the quarterback to beat him with his arm. I don't know which one that is, because to me, McQuaid and Sawyer darn near look like that Spider-Man meme.
Yeah. That is exactly it. They are like that. They are like the Spider-Man meme because they are the exact same freaking quarterback.
Yeah. So whichever one, or whichever run defense can force the quarterback, or which quarterback can make a couple of big plays with the arm and not have to rely on. So there's a couple of storylines that will drive how this game winds up.
Yep. And so, as Jason says, it'll be a busy night for the LaForge Parish Sheriff's Office. Absolutely. Absolutely. I should, as a joke, set a over under for disturbing the peace calls that they get that night, and maybe I'll put that out on Twitter tomorrow and see what folks take. It'll be fun to see. So so that's it. It's a fun slate of games. You can catch them all. There's a lot of great games around the FCS this weekend. Obviously, the chat has been big on the Brawl of the Wild, which is one of the best rivalries with the shittiest trophy. And I mean that literally. That thing looks like dinosaur poop.
It really does. It looks like that what Laura Dern has to dig through to figure out why the Triceratops is sick. That's what that trophy looks like.
Exactly. You got Idaho and Idaho State playing for that potato.
For a kidney stone.
Yeah. You got the Causeway clash between Davis and Sac State. That's going to actually be, I think that's going to be a little bit more of an important game than people realize, because this is another one of those games where you can kind of throw out the record books a little bit.
Yeah, it's really important for Davis. They've got to make a big statement so that they can settle in somewhere in the top 5 seeds, 5-6 seeds.
Yep. And then you've got, like I said, you got Lehigh Lafayette. That's always a fun historic rivalry to watch. So a lot of good rivalry games this weekend. You can catch them all, most of them on ESPN, the ESPN Plus, except for anything CAA.
There's one big rivalry that you got to watch on Flow, and it's being played about 15, 20 miles up the road here. Thinking about seeing if I can go, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it. But,
is it, Richmond and who are they playing? Well, that's right. It is Richmond and Bill and Mary week, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, battle a bunch of preppy white kids. Love it.
Pretty much.
Well, cool. Like, so I said,
a lot of sweater vests.
I was gonna say a lot of tied over sweater vests, 7-inch shorts. Like, yeah, you can totally see it. But yeah. So this is the end of the regular season Southland Sermons. Like I said, I've talked to Corey Hogue. I've talked to Zach McKinnell. I was gonna talk to Jamie, but we plan on doing a recap show probably after the playoffs to talk about the Southland this year. But also too, there will be a lot of FCS playoff coverage this week on the FCS Fans Nation shows. Like I said, I'm going to set up a Mega Live on Sunday night to talk about the bracket. But Jamie, why don't you tell me what's going on Sunday morning while the bracket's being launched?
Yeah, join us, Matt, Kyler, and myself, noon East, 11 Central. We're going to go live half an hour before the bracket show comes on, give our last thoughts of what happened on Saturday. I might even have a final bracket prediction if I have time to put that together. When the show comes on ESPN, come to us on YouTube. We'll be reacting live time with real analysis because we've seen these teams. So come check us out on the FCS Fans Nation YouTube page and see if we can maybe teach you something, or maybe y'all can teach us something in the chat. We'll talk along the bracket, reveal how we think the committee did, how the seeds came out. It's really interesting. We got 8 extra seeds now. We're going 9. We're seeding up to 16, so 9 through 16 is going to be really, really interesting. So I just read Zach's comment. So we're going to have a lot to talk about. Who's going to be those last few teams? How does the bubble shape up? I think right now we're looking at somewhere in the 30-ish teams range.
Yeah,
that could be in the playoffs. So somewhere around 6 teams bubbles are going to burst. Let's see who that's going to be, either through losing or just getting left out.
Yep, I'm actually going to write down the picks from last Sunday and just side by side see how, not even so much the teams got in, but when we seeded or when we did the seeding to see how it matches up, because I've found last year we were pretty accurate, or the page was pretty damn accurate. I don't
say we did a good job on Sunday, and then when I revealed my final picks on Sunday of the bracket show, I had 23 of the 24 teams. I didn't have Chattanooga. I don't remember who I had in instead.
Yeah,
but that's where you got the visceral reaction of my shock when they were named to the bracket.
That was when we were trying to figure out if Incarnate Word was going to somehow sneak in or not, even though we all knew they were going to because of their strength of schedule.
Well, and that was the last year was everybody telling me for sure North Dakota State's getting a seed because of who they are. I said, no, they're not. No, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. And again, if you listen to the Sunday show that Matt does with Jamie and Kyler, and on occasion myself, whenever I have to be broke ass Kyler, they mentioned FCS gold, the Fans Nation Gold. The money from that gold that goes to pay the copyrights. So just remember that. Like, this is the one day any monetization goes out the window. So no, make sure you catch it. Jamie, I know a lot of folks who are watching here know you, probably have had beers with you, but one more time, give a shout out to where they can find you and all the work that you do for the FCS.
Yeah, you can find me obviously on the Facebook page, FCS Fans Nation, at JD Williams 23 on X/Twitter /Elon's Place. Here every Sunday throughout the week with our podcast with myself and Matt. You're going to get my top 25 every week. I was a little late this week. My bad. Life got in the way, but you're going to get that every week. If you ask a question that has an actual question in it, not just a snarky smartass thing, you're going to get a response. If you get a snarky smartass comment, guess what you're going to get back? A better one.
And also, too, one other thing, if you're on the FCS Fans Nation Gold, Jamie releases his 1 through 127 each week, which is really damn impressive because I barely have time to do my top 25 for Redshirt Sports, and I have to get reminded by James every week that I owe it. So
that's all right. I'm like one of the last 4 or 5 with James. He's like, "Hey, you got me yet?" But I'm not last. We're good.
Every Monday, I get a message from him, and he's like, "Let me know when yours is in." I'm like, "Dude, sorry, I'm doing other things. I'll get it to you, I promise." So no, but guys, once again, thanks for the ride this year. It's been fun doing the show. It'll be back next year, hopefully with less copyright issues from YouTube.
Screw you, 47.
Yeah, screw you, 47. I've been waiting to say that all year. But yeah, enjoy this weekend. Enjoy the Riverbell Classic tomorrow. We will talk to you soon. Peace.